Systems work, people fail. Welcome to InsureMark's Advisor Mentorship Podcast with Vice President Jeremy Hauser.
Benjamin Franklin once said, an investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. Well, today, audience, we're going to share some great knowledge with you. Welcome to this episode of the Advisor Mentorship Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Hauser, and today we have a very special guest on. Our guest is an expert out there in the industry of annuities and life insurance. She is CEO and founder of Moore Market Intelligence. How are we doing today, Sheryl Moore?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
No, thanks for coming on. I know several of the listeners have maybe seen you out on social media, have followed you for a while now on LinkedIn, and many of them may actually follow you and know you from Wink. So actually, before we even kick off the meeting, could you give us a little insight to your company that you started a while ago with Wink? Where did you come up with that title, and what all does Wink do now?
Well, I actually paid a marketing firm to come up with that name. My employees voted on several different names and they won with Wink. That's actually a company name that I didn't agree with, but we have several competitive intelligence tools like Annuity Specs, Life Specs, Wink Sales and Market Report. In general, we track all the products in the life insurance and annuity industry and report on their sales.
Yeah, and I believe over the last several years, we actually, every year we'll do our family reunion. And for years now, back in the day when Steve Kearns, founder of InsureMark, he would be in our end of the year meetings and he'd have your Wink report to share knowledge on, which were the top 10 carriers in the annuity space, life insurance space. So several of our advisors are familiar with the report, but great to put a name with the face behind the organization. But for those that maybe don't know who you are, Sheryl, do you mind sharing a little bit about your history and your background and what got you started in the insurance space?
Yeah, so 25 years ago, I worked for the company that is today known as Athene, and I was in charge of their product development and competitive intelligence. I left there due to a change in health plan, to be completely transparent, went to work for another home office and honestly wanted to stab my eyes out every day that I went to work. So I decided to start this company 20 years ago. And, I've had a personal experience with life insurance and annuities that make me really passionate about this industry. And I advocate for it the best that I can.
Mm-hmm. And I think one thing that I kind of align with you as well, too, is throughout the years of you being in the industry itself, where did really the passion become for you to want to provide some of the intel that you do on the annuity and life insurance side of the house for those that are not only as advisors, some knowledge for them within the companies, but also the consumers? So where did that passion come from?
So when I was working for the first home office, I enrolled in this thing called a 401k. Maybe you've heard of it. I was very unfamiliar with this retirement product, and I asked a lot of questions when they were trying to enroll me in the plan. And it seemed like nobody that I spoke with could give me answers to my questions. I just kept getting a lot of pressure from everybody saying, hey, there's a 5% match. There's a 5% match. It's free money. You can't not do it. And so I selected some allocations and went all in on the 401k. And I found out in 2000 when the dot-com bubble burst that you can lose money in a 401k. And I am very conservative. I did not feel comfortable with that. So I complained to my boss and said, look, I'm uncomfortable. I'm losing money. Where can I move this money so that I can make sure that I don't lose anything? And he said, well, why didn't you buy an indexed annuity? And I didn't know what an annuity was. I was a life insurance expert. And when he explained what the annuity was and that it would provide a paycheck every month until I died, it really caught my attention. I was partially raised by my grandparents, and I was hearing them talk about concerns with budgeting and making their money last. And so it sounded great to me. And when I asked, what's an indexed annuity? And he explained that it was a product where you could never lose money as a result of the market's performance, but you could earn limited interest based on its market movements. I said, how can I buy an indexed annuity? That sounds like what I wish I would have bought instead of this dumb 401k thing. And he just stopped and stared at me and said, Sheryl, we are the number one seller of indexed annuities in the country. And I was devastated. All I felt was rage, because why didn't this company that I was giving my heart to tell me about this product that better aligned with my risk profile than the 401k? So that really motivated me to educate people about annuities so they could make a decision about whether or not they were right for them. And as far as life insurance, I lost my son to suicide 11 years ago, and I had to make a death claim on his life insurance policy. So I'm very grateful for my insurance agent and for all the insurance agents out there that do their due diligence to protect their clients.
I'm sorry to hear about the loss. I know, I believe actually July, right, is the anniversary?
Yeah, it'll be 11 years in just a couple weeks.
Yeah, our condolences to you. I know that. Yeah, so a lot to unpack with your story. I think a lot of people can relate to what you were mentioning with regards to working for a company for a while, not wanting to lose money. So you fast forward numerous years, couple decades, and here you are today. So it wasn't always that way where people knew who Sheryl Moore was. So how were you able to become really the expert and the person that people would go to get some intel on annuities and life insurance? Where do you think, what was really a breakthrough moment for you in your career to get on a stage or a platform to really attract people to your resources?
Well, I got to be honest with you. When I started this business 20 years ago, I didn't look old enough to belly up to the bar. And I'm a woman working in a man's world, so credibility was super tough. I started doing speaking engagements where people could really see how passionate I am about this business, and, really just showing that I know what I'm talking about. And I was building relationships, and it just got to the point where people knew me and could see that I knew what I was talking about. And it doesn't help that I got a few gray hairs.
So over time, building some credibility, being able to do some speaking engagements. Is there so what drives that passion though? So I get it from your own personal experience, but I mean nowadays, like what's the next big step for Sheryl, and what are you looking to do with more with your company, with the intelligence that you're offering to our industry?
So, one of the main things that I've done to really advocate for this industry over the past 25 years is establish relationships, especially with news media outlets, because I want to be their source whenever they're looking to report on life insurance and annuities. Instead of outlets saying annuities pay commissions of up to 9%. I'm saying, annuities pay commissions that range from 60 basis points to 9%, but the average is 6.48%. So we're able to get that story out. And I would say that we've effectively rebranded annuities in particular over the past 20 years. That's what really gets me excited about this business.
And it's true what you say too, because even I've seen I've seen from Forbes to uh, New York Times. I mean, some of the biggest news outlets out there actually talk in the last 2 years now positively about annuities. So, is that something you've been seeing too?
Really, I would say, not just to give myself credit, but the Secure Act really helped to change the narrative about annuities, because all of a sudden we have annuities being approved for use in retirement plans like 401ks. And that has made a lot of news media outlets embrace annuities in a way that they didn't before.
So, why do you think that though? So, what because of regulation, you think they have to cover it, or why? Why do you think that changed?
Well, I think they're pro 401k. I mean, and it just legitimizes the product to them if it's going to be available within an in-plan product.
Makes sense. And I mean, there's obviously it's new because now we have some very positive information coming out about annuities. Which I mean, the the stories never change. It's just the people writing the story maybe have changed. So these have been very very solid products for decades now. Is there any blind spots you would see based off of your intel where you're looking at such a, I mean, you have such a large amount of resources that are looking across the industry. Are there any blind spots you see in the annuity or life insurance realm?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, I love life insurance, but I really don't have to do as much work on the life insurance side because people know what it is. It's legitimized. Most people think that it has value, but annuities I have to work with quite a bit just because there's a lot of naysayers out there and the products are much maligned. I would say that when it comes to annuities, the two big blind spots that people miss are number one, saying that these are high commission products and therefore not good for purchasers or consumers. And then number two, that annuities lock up your money. People lose sight of the fact that, you have access to your annuities value annually, usually about 10%. And even this morning, I posted an article on my LinkedIn where somebody said annuities lock up your money and they failed to take note of that withdrawal provision. So it's always an uphill battle, it seems, when we're working to rebrand annuities.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy too, because based off of the line of work we do, I mean, I know that there's companies you can actually go online and see your statement. Not all, but you can see your actual daily values every single day in these contracts. So it's good to have somebody who's fighting the good fight for us on a national scale. Um, so that blows my mind. But yeah, what you mentioned too on LinkedIn. So I mean, you're very active too. I mean, how many times a day do you post on LinkedIn? I feel like every time I log in, I see something about some different company. Um, how active are you on LinkedIn?
Super active. I got to be transparent with you. Like, I don't know how many times a day I post. Like yesterday, I only posted a couple things because I attended a funeral of a family member. And then today, I've already posted several things. So I would say on average, probably 5 posts a day. It's just really a thing where when I see something, if I think it would be relevant and interesting to others in the industry, I like to post it so that they're up to date on the most recent news.
Yeah, and I think for those that are listening, if they're not already following or connected to you, definitely they should connect with you. I think the last time I saw you were well over 24,000 connections. So, and I mean, like you said, literally, I learned so much information that you're posting about, different companies, different regulations. I mean, mergers in our industry. So, and also, what's the best website for you, Sheryl, for those that are curious to know a little bit more about Wink and what y'all are doing?
Well, Wink's website URL is winkintel.com, which is short for Wink Intelligence. And then for those who are interested in my consulting work, like my speaking or articles or books, they can hit up SherylJMoore.com. Or if you can't spell my name right, it's also moremarketintelligence.com.
Love that.
It's a
And so,
problem,
with all the
Jeremy.
amount of information that you've been, I would, yeah, well, Moore to be clear.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
and I think with all the information that you've been gathering here over the years, and we've seen a good trajectory. Where do you see the index annuity space going here in the future?
Well, we've been experiencing record sales almost linearly on index annuities for years and years. I don't see that momentum slowing down just because now that people are open to the idea of annuities in a way that they haven't been over the past 25 years or maybe ever. I do project that overall annuity sales are going to grow, but index annuities in particular, just because right now the rates our index annuities are the best that they've ever been. They're very attractive. And for people who say, I'm not comfortable losing money, these might be a really good option for them.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. And we're seeing the trend. I mean, we're living the trend with a lot of our advisors we serve. They're up tremendously. So the consumer is definitely very interested in those type of solutions. And what about the IUL space? Where do you see that industry going here in the near future?
Well, to be earnest, I don't see index life doing as well just because we have a lot of premium finance business that comes in on index life, especially on those cash accumulation products, as opposed to like a death benefit IUL or guaranteed UL. And premium finance is something that's been facing a lot of challenges in that advanced sales space just because of where interest rates are. So I'm not projecting index life will do as well, but it's still faring relatively well versus other types of life insurance.
Yeah, and I think as I look back here, I'm in my 30s, just like you, or just like whenever possibly you were purchasing your first index annuity. Um, it's tough to find good information out there for accumulation, where you have no market risk. So yeah, I'd say you're pretty dead on the annuity and life insurance predictions here in the near future. And I mean, so what enticed you here? So I mentioned it. You actually have a book, Why I Bought Index Annuities by Sheryl Moore. So um, why the book? Or tell us a little bit about what enticed you to want to come out with a book. Love the title. Um, what enticed you to write this book?
So, really, it was the fact that index annuities have gotten a lot of bad press over the past 20 years. I mean, I used to write back to 8 different news media outlets a day about negative and inaccurate articles about indexed annuities. So, that motivated me quite a bit. But really, the thing was, I wanted prospects to be able to learn about these products from somebody who does not endorse any company or product but just has a personal experience with them. And if you notice at the end of the back, I have a ton of policyholder annual statements that show very sizable returns. And that's because so many people say, well, we don't know how these products have actually performed. And I wanted to set an expectation that these policyholder annual statements aren't what you should expect, but they give credence to the power of indexed annuities.
And to that point, so I was on my AMP mastermind call. So this is my top 15 advisors for the month of July, and I shared with them this book. So a lot of them wanting the book, they're now purchasing the book. Um, One thing that I did mention is exactly what you said. The last 15 to 20 pages is, I mean, it's right in your face, just statements from numerous carriers out there. And I mean, not all of them are just amazing returns, but it does tell the story of good growth over a certain time frame. So I mean, the advisors love this because there's nothing out there in the industry that is doing that type of story. So, and I love personally the chapter Simplicity Sells for obvious reasons. But is I think the main focus of that specific chapter, what was actually, I want to hear your perspective. So that specific one, Simplicity Sells, what was your thought behind writing that specific chapter in the book?
So I really think index annuities are simple products when it comes to the concept. And I think that really what resounds with consumers is that I like the guarantees that are available with indexed annuities. But unfortunately, the industry has really taken a position where we're focusing on potential returns and talking about unlimited potential for interest. And that has complicated the products, especially when you look at, the 158 different indexes that we have available on indexed annuities today. So I just wanted to communicate, although we as an industry have kind of complicated the product, they're actually still very simple.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And some carriers do a really good job of keeping it simple, and some carriers, it's a little challenging.
They shall remain nameless.
Yeah, always. Yeah, always nameless. So those that want actual access to the book. So go ahead and what's the title of this one again, and how do they get access to it?
Well, unbelievably, Jeremy, we sold out in a day of all the books that we had, and Amazon is sold out too. So we're personally working on a wait list. And for anybody who's interested in joining that wait list, you can give my assistant an email at Kathy, Cathy, at winkintel.com, and she can get them added.
I love that. Yeah. So I'm very excited about not just the book for you, obviously, but I think the industry itself needs things like this to help continue to spread the message of the solid products that our industry does have for consumers. And as we wrap up, are there any final thoughts or words of wisdoms as we're closing out here?
I just want to encourage everybody that I know this is a super tough job to be an insurance agent, but it's also a very humble profession. So don't be challenged by the naysayers and keep protecting your clients, especially with indexed annuities. They're great products.
Wow. I'm Jeremy Hauser, and I endorse that message. That's that's very solid. Thank you very much, Sheryl, for your time, for joining us today. I appreciate it. And also thank you to the listener for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite listening device so you do not miss out on any future episodes. Also, make sure to follow us on LinkedIn at Jeremy Hauser and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Jeremy Hauser AMP. And as you continue to share this episode with friends and you continue to also follow us on our devices, remember, in a world full of betas, be an alpha.